we normally believe that this is going to be an election which is going to change the country. I think every election we expect it to change the country. It's not new. It's nothing new that is happening this time. That's what I feel. Every election was a kind of a significant step at that particular time. Whatever it happened at that particular time, it was very significant, very important election. Whether it was 2004, 2009 in the recent past that we could see. So I don't think this election is something that's going to make a dramatic change in India's polity as well as the governance model that we talk about. But what is more worrisome, I would say, is that, as you rightly mentioned, the issues, real issues, this time I find have been completely off the radar, off the political radar that you see, especially the issue of farmers. You don't see anybody talking about farmers at all. Farmers have completely disappeared this time from the political radar screen. I think that clearly shows who are we interested in and who will be looking at or aiming at or looking at who will benefit out of this entire thing. I must tell you or share with you, several years back when Mehboob al Haq was alive, he came to see me once for a book that he wanted to take from me. And I remember what we sat down and shared. He said he had come from Yale, Cambridge, and Harvard, and he became the finance minister of Pakistan at a relatively very young age. And during his tenure, the GDP of Pakistan was 7%, which was remarkable. I'm thinking of those times when he must be the finance minister of Pakistan. I don't think many of us would remember when he was the finance minister.
1980s.
Right, sir. So at that time, that's what he told me. The GDP growth was 7%, and they were so confident that when the elections will take place, they're going to come back into power. He says there was the complacency, of course, they were more confident or whatever it is. And he explained to me that in our region, in India or Pakistan, elections are normally, including all those factors that we talk about, the caste and social factors and so on and so forth, the corruption also included, it is the economic growth. If the people have really benefited from the economic growth, they're going to vote for that particular party again. So that's what they assume, 7% economic growth. So they think now nobody can stop her coming back. So I said, what happened then? He said, we went into election and the party disappeared. So then he got a huge shock in his life. He realized that GDP was not the touchstone to development. That's what I think. If you read his Human Development, as you all know, he was also the editor of the Human Development Report. And in his South Asia Human Development Report, I think if you read the preface, he had mentioned very clearly that GDP is not the touchstone to development, and that's what he got the root shock once they lost the election. So his point was that if you really want people to grow, everything nowadays we have been told that countries' growth, if it goes to 9%, 10%, somebody says 14%, then only you're going to go to create jobs and so on, and we remove poverty, we'll remove hunger. I've seen this debate happening, which I think is again superficial because we're not even trying to understand what is GDP, whether it will really address the issue of creation of jobs or not. We have the typical kind of analysts who come on the television channel, they sing only one chorus, they always tell you one part of the story. The questions are also asked accordingly, and if you have a decent voice being projected there, you cut short or you are ignored. And I have seen that happening as one of the studio myself. But the point is, we don't want to debate, we only want to convey this message that this is the way forward, so the country must accept it. There's a kind of illusion that I see around in this country. I don't know but what will happen when the new government comes in, as all of us are hoping for. Again we have this impression that unless GDP grows up, nothing will move in this country. But some statistics for you. In fact, in the last few days, the debate about LPG cylinders. I know most of the panelists on the television shows would tell us, oh, India is doing it wrong, we must cut down on subsidies, the subsidies are a wasteful expenditure. I hear it every other day, subsidies are a wasteful expenditure. Everybody joins in, the poor should not get LPG subsidies, they should not get subsidies for bus travels or whatever it is, it's all wasteful expenditure. But nobody talks about the subsidies that the corporates get. It's very interesting, you see the vocabulary. The subsidies that you give to poor are called subsidies, they're bad words, so you hate it. But the subsidies you give to the rich or the companies are called incentives for growth. So you look at the vocabulary. So very cleverly they have ensured that you cannot point a finger to their subsidy. I never understood why does the IT sector, for instance, in India, should get a massive subsidy support. We just have Nandan Nilenkani so declaring his assets 7,700 crores. If that's the wealth one individual can create, imagine the wealth others have created. And these are the people who live on subsidies, huge subsidies to the IT sector, including land subsidies. Nobody questions. We all believe it is growth. It's like privatization of profit and socialization of cost. You and me bear the cost, and somebody is making money out of it. Why can't that money be utilized for their own development or for the growth of their own sector or the other sectors? But no, these are not the questions asked. They are not the questions even tolerated. And we are using that word intolerant.